Esther vanished on a Thursday in February after telling me she needed space to figure herself out. We had been together 4 years, engaged for 8 months, living in my apartment that I paid for entirely while she contributed nothing but complaints about the water pressure. I want everyone to understand that part clearly because it matters later. I'm 29, work in logistics management, and I built everything I have from scratch after my dad Abraham basically told me at 18 that I was on my own. No trust fund, no safety net, nothing but a used 2017 Ford Focus and a gym bag of clothes. So when Esther, who I met through my cousin Gloria at a family barbecue in 2021, said she loved me and wanted to build a life together, I believed her. I actually believed her. Okay, so we're starting with a man who got handed nothing at 18. A used car and a gym bag, which is basically the good luck figuring it out starter pack, and built himself up brick by brick. That detail about the water pressure complaints is killing me, because you know that's the kind of thing that lives in your head rent-free for years. Like this man is paying the whole rent, probably working overtime, and the feedback he's getting is, the shower is mid. That's not a complaint, that's a character reveal. We're 2 paragraphs in, and I already know exactly who Esther is. The first week of her needing space, I respected it completely. Sent her one text saying I loved her and would be here when she was ready. The second week, I started getting worried. Third week, I drove by her parents' place in Westbrook, and her mom, Isla, told me through the screen door that Esther was staying with a friend and working through some personal matters. Isla looked me dead in the face while saying this. She knew. That woman knew exactly where her daughter was and who she was with, and she stood there feeding me garbage. Fourth week, I ran into Liam at the hardware store near downtown. Liam works with Esther at the same insurance office, and he looked uncomfortable the second he saw me. I asked him straight up if he had seen her lately, and he did this thing where he scratched his neck and said, yeah, she had been coming into work, but he did not want to get involved in personal stuff. I pushed harder, asked if she was okay, if something was wrong, and Liam finally cracked. He told me she had been carpooling with Roland from accounting for the past 3 weeks, that they seemed pretty close, that Roland lived in those new loft apartments on Harbor Street. Isla, standing behind that screen door knowing her daughter is shacked up with Roland from accounting while feeding this man the "she's working through some things" script. That's generational betrayal. That's not protecting your daughter. That's being her accomplice. And mothers like this wonder why their kids never learn consequences. Because mommy's always there with the cover story and the alibi. But the real MVP of this story so far is Liam doing that neck scratch. You know the one. The universal body language for, I have information that's about to ruin your whole day, but I really don't want to be the messenger. Liam tried so hard to stay out of it, but my man couldn't hold the poker face for 30 seconds, so I drove over there on my lunch break. Not to cause drama, not to scream or break things. I just needed to see it. And there was her car, the 2019 Mazda CX-5. I helped her finance when her credit was destroyed, parked in Roland's assigned spot, her overnight bag sitting visible in the back seat. I sat in my car for probably 40 minutes just processing. Then I drove back to work, finished my shift, went home, and waited. Because here is the thing Reddit needs to understand about me. I do not explode immediately. I am not the guy who kicks down doors and makes a scene. I am the guy who waits, who plans, who makes absolutely certain that when I act, every single move counts. Listen, the overnight bag visible in the back seat is the detail that would make a normal person spiral. That's not "I stayed over once." That's moved in energy. That's toiletries and a change of clothes for the weak energy. And this man saw it, sat in his car for 40 minutes, probably cycling through every stage of grief at hyperspeed, then just clocked back in and finished his shift. That's either incredible emotional discipline or the moment a supervillain origin story begins. There is no in between. When someone says, I don't explode, I wait, you should be absolutely terrified because that's a person building a case file in their head while smiling at you. 3 days later, Esther called me sobbing. Roland had apparently gotten cold feet about her basically moving herself into his apartment without a real conversation. And now she wanted to come home. She kept saying she made a terrible mistake, that she got confused about what she wanted, that Roland made her feel special in a way that she thought she needed but now realized was shallow and meaningless. She literally said, and I quote, that she just needed to get it out of her system. I laughed. Not a cruel laugh. Not some dramatic villain moment. Just a soft, tired laugh at the absolute audacity. I set the phone down on the kitchen counter, her voice still going, still making excuses, and I walked to my spare bedroom where I keep all my important documents. I pulled out the lease agreement with only my name on it. I pulled out the vehicle financing paperwork I co-signed for her. I pulled out the joint credit card statements where I had been the only one making payments for 11 months. And I started making a list. I needed to get it out of my system. Is genuinely one of the most insane things you can say to someone you're engaged to. That's not an apology. That's a confession wrapped in the expectation that you'll just accept it. Like, she really thought she could frame a whole month of deliberate betrayal as some kind of spiritual detox, and he'd be like, oh, well, as long as you're cleansed now, welcome home, queen. And Roland, kicking her out, is peak comedy. Because she didn't even secure the rebound properly. She burned down her whole relationship for a guy who wasn't even that into her. That's not a love triangle, that's just bad project management. Because Esther does not get to do this. She does not get to disappear into another man's bed for a month, get rejected by him, and then crawl back expecting everything to be the same. Her mother, Isla, does not get to lie to my face while actively helping her daughter betray me. Roland does not get to walk away clean from this either. What none of them know is that I have been preparing for this exact scenario in some form for years. Not this specifically, but I always knew that if someone ever tried to take advantage of my stability and loyalty, I would be ready. I have leverage they do not even realize exists. Gloria texted me that night asking if I was okay. Said she heard from Isla that Esther was trying to work things out with me. I told Gloria to sit tight, that I had a plan, and that by the time I was done, Esther was going to understand exactly what she threw away and exactly what it costs to treat people like backup options. This is not a story about healing or moving on. This is the story of what happens when you push the wrong person too far, and I am just getting started. When someone tells you they've been preparing for this exact scenario for years, not this specific betrayal, just any betrayal, that's a man who understood something most people don't learn until it's too late. Trust, but verify. Keep receipts. Know where you stand legally at all times. Some people call that paranoid. I call it being an adult who's been burned before. Also, the fact that he's pulling out documents while she's still crying on the phone he set down on the counter. That's cinema. That's him physically walking away from the emotional manipulation and into the war room. She's performing tears and he's reviewing the terms and conditions. Update 1. All right, Reddit. The situation has officially spiraled beyond what I anticipated. 3 days after that phone call where Esther sobbed through every excuse while I organized documents, she showed up at my workplace parking lot during lunch. Not with flowers. Not with genuine remorse. She stood next to her Mazda with arms crossed like I somehow owed her an explanation. I spotted her walking out with coworkers. They gave me that look like, do you need us to stay? And I told them I would catch up. I wanted this conversation. Seeing her trying to look confident when I knew how desperate she actually was gave me something I had not felt in weeks. Control. She started immediately with this speech about how we needed to talk like adults, that running away from problems would not fix anything. The audacity. She ghosted me for a month, moved in with another man, and now she was lecturing about running away. I let her finish because I wanted her to believe she still had leverage. Arms crossed in his workplace parking lot like she's the one who's been wronged. That pose, that energy. Showing up to someone's job to create a confrontation is already unhinged behavior. But doing it while acting like they owe you something? That's a masterclass in delusion. And the "we need to talk like adults" line coming from someone who ghosted for a month and played house with an accountant named Roland. The lack of self-awareness is almost impressive. She really walked in there thinking the relationship dynamics hadn't fundamentally shifted. She thought he was still the guy who would fold because he loved her. She was about to learn. When she was done, I asked what exactly she thought would happen now. She launched into explanations that made me realize she had no idea how badly she miscalculated. Roland was a mistake. She felt underappreciated. I worked too much and came home tired. Roland paid attention to her, made her feel seen. But now she understood what we had was real and wanted to come home. I let her talk for 10 minutes. She kept circling back to how the apartment felt empty, how we built so much together, how her mom Isla kept saying couples push through rough patches. Isla, the woman who lied to my face for 3 weeks while enabling her daughter to live with another man. Then I started talking. I watched her expression change. I told her the apartment was in my name only, that she had zero legal claim after abandoning it for 30 days. The Mazda parked behind her was financed under a co-signer agreement I could withdraw from, triggering payment demands she could not afford. The joint credit card I paid alone for 11 months. I had contacted the bank to remove myself, leaving her solely responsible for the balance. I worked too much and came home tired. Yeah, because he was paying for everything. He was tired because he was funding her entire lifestyle. The audacity to use his exhaustion from providing for her as a justification for cheating, that's weapons-grade entitlement. And then she brings up Isla's advice about pushing through rough patches. Isla, who was running interference for the affair. Isla's idea of pushing through rough patches is cheat until you're bored, then go back. But watching this man calmly list the legal and financial realities while her face changes in real time, that's not cruelty, that's a PowerPoint presentation on consequences. He's not yelling, not crying, just reading her the terms of service she violated. She tried interrupting, kept saying I was being vindictive, this was not who I was. But I kept going. I was not doing this from cruelty. She made choices with consequences. Did she think about any of this in Roland's bed? Did she consider her stability when deciding I was just a backup plan? She started crying quietly, said I was destroying her life over one mistake. One mistake. Like a month of deliberate choices was a single bad decision. Every morning in his apartment was a choice. Every night staying was a choice. Every lie her mother told was a choice. Then she said something surprising. Her dad had warned her this would happen, that I was the type who never forgives anything, who holds grudges. She should have listened, and that told me everything about how her family viewed me. Never good enough, just stable enough to use. One mistake is doing so much heavy lifting here. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is burning dinner. Moving your overnight bag into another man's apartment, staying for a month, and only leaving because he kicked you out is not a mistake. That's a fully executed project with milestones and deliverables. But the real gut punch is finding out her father warned her about him years ago. That means they sat around the dinner table talking about how he's the grudge-holding type, like it was a character flaw they were managing. They knew who they were dealing with, decided to test it anyway, and are now shocked that the man who holds grudges is holding a grudge. You don't poke a beehive and then complain about getting stung. I told her to leave before I involved security. She drove away saying this was not over, that I could not erase 4 years. 2 hours later, Gloria texted saying Isla was blowing up her phone. Esther drove straight to her parents claiming I threatened to destroy her financially. Isla wanted Gloria to intervene, to remind me family does not treat each other this way. Gloria told Isla she was not getting involved, but messaged me separately saying she worried I was going too far too fast. I appreciate Gloria, but she does not understand. The breathing and waiting already happened. That month while Esther played house with Roland was my breathing period. Every day I sat alone wondering what I did wrong. I built the framework for exactly this. Then came an unexpected angle. I got home and found a note under my door. Not from Esther, from Roland. He wanted to talk man to man. Felt terrible about everything. Thought I deserved an explanation. Left his number. Part of me wants to ignore it, but another part sees an opportunity. Roland knows things about Esther, about how she presented our relationship while with him, about what lies she told. Meanwhile, Isla started calling my dad Abraham directly. She texted asking what the hell was happening, why some woman he barely knew was leaving voicemails about his son ruining her daughter's life. This thing is spreading fast. Esther's family is mobilizing, Gloria is caught in the middle, and Roland wants a conversation I am not sure about. But none of them understand the real problem yet. The car financing was just the opening move. I love that Esther's immediate response to facing consequences is running to mommy and framing it as him being the villain. He's threatening to destroy me financially. No, ma'am. He's removing himself from financial obligations you benefited from while betraying him. That's not destruction. That's you standing on your own 2 feet for the first time. And Isla calling his dad, going over his head to daddy like he's a teenager who needs to be disciplined. These people fundamentally do not understand that they have no leverage here. They spent years treating him like a utility, reliable, boring, there when you need him. And now they're discovering that utilities can be shut off? But Roland leaving a note? That's a wild card. That's potentially the most valuable intel drop of this entire situation. Update 2. So Isla showed up at my apartment building. Not inside because she does not have access, but standing in the lobby when I came home from work on Monday. The building has a security door that requires a key fob, so she must have waited for someone to let her in or followed a resident. Either way, seeing her standing there with her purse clutched against her chest like she was the victim in this situation made something click in my brain. She started talking before I even reached her, going on about how I was tearing apart her family, how Esther had not eaten properly in days, how this vendetta I was pursuing would destroy everyone, including myself. She kept using the word vendetta like I was some cartoon villain plotting in a basement. I let her finish because I wanted to hear exactly how she would frame everything that happened. When she ran out of steam, I asked her one question. I asked her why she lied to me through her screen door for 3 weeks while her daughter was living with another man. Isla immediately started backpedaling, saying she was protecting her child, that any mother would do the same. that I needed to understand Esther was confused and vulnerable. Vulnerable. Her adult daughter, who made a conscious decision to leave our home and move into another man's apartment, was vulnerable. Isla tailgating into a secured building to ambush someone is unhinged behavior that she would absolutely call the police about if anyone did it to her. But when she does it, it's just a concerned mother trying to fix things. The clutched purse and victim posture while standing uninvited in someone else's building. These people are incapable of seeing themselves as anything other than the wronged party. And protecting her child? Esther is a grown woman who made a choice. She wasn't kidnapped by Roland. She didn't wander into his apartment confused and disoriented. She packed a bag. She drove herself there daily. That's not vulnerability, that's a commute. The word vulnerable is doing a lot of heavy lifting when you're describing someone who successfully orchestrated a whole double life. I told Isla that I understood perfectly. I understood that she enabled her daughter to betray me while keeping me in the dark so Esther could have a safety net if things with Roland did not work out. I understood that their whole family viewed me as the reliable backup option, never the first choice. I told her that her husband apparently warned Esther years ago that I hold grudges, which meant they all knew exactly what kind of person I was and decided to test that anyway. Isla tried switching tactics. She said she knew I was a good man deep down, that she had watched me and Esther build something beautiful, that I was letting one mistake overshadow 4 years of love. Then she offered something that genuinely surprised me. She said if I dropped the financial pressure on Esther, her family would help cover any debts I felt I was owed. They would make me whole financially if I just walked away peacefully. Here is where Reddit needs to understand something about my situation. Walking away was never the plan. Being made whole financially was never the point. Esther and her family spent 4 years treating me like a utility while privately believing I was beneath them. This was not about money. This was about consequences. The buyout offer is fascinating because it reveals exactly how this family operates. They think everything can be fixed with a check. They think his anger is really just about money because to them that's all he ever was, a source of financial stability. They genuinely cannot comprehend that someone might want something as abstract as respect, as accountability. And when he says it was never about money, this is what people who've never been truly disrespected don't understand. Sometimes the only acceptable outcome is that the other person feels what they did, not pays for it, feels it. Money can't buy that. Only consequences can. Only watching everything they thought was guaranteed crumble in their hands can teach that lesson. I declined Isla's offer. I told her that her daughter needed to face the reality of her choices without mommy and daddy cushioning every fall. Isla's face changed then. She stopped pretending to be reasonable and told me that I was making a powerful enemy, that her family had connections in this community, that I would regret choosing this path. I walked past her to the elevator and went upstairs. That night, I finally texted Roland back. Told him I would meet him at the park near Harbor Street the following evening after work. I wanted to see what this man had to say and, more importantly, I wanted information. Because during those weeks Esther was living with him, she must have said things about me, about our relationship, about her plans. Roland might be the key to understanding exactly how calculated Esther's betrayal actually was. We met on a bench near the running path. Roland looked uncomfortable the entire time. He kept apologizing, saying he never meant to get in the middle of someone else's relationship, that Esther told him we had already broken up when she first started staying over. She told him we were broken up. So for the first 2 weeks, Roland genuinely believed he was dating a single woman. Making a powerful enemy is wild dialogue coming from a woman who just offered a bribe and got rejected. The mask came completely off, from "you're a good man" deep down to "we have connections" in about 30 seconds flat. That's the real Isla. That's how they see themselves versus everyone else. They're the connected, important family, and he's just the useful boyfriend who got above his station. But the Roland meeting? Critical intelligence gathering, and finding out Esther told Roland they were already broken up? She was running completely separate narratives. To her fiancé, I need space. To Roland, I'm single. She was manipulating everyone simultaneously. That's not confused, that's coordinated. That's a chess player, not someone who made a mistake. He said he only found out the truth when he noticed she still had my photos as her phone background. And when he asked about it, she admitted we were technically still engaged, but that it was over emotionally. By then she was already living in his apartment, and he felt trapped. He said he tried to end things gently, but she kept pushing back, kept finding reasons to stay another day. Eventually, he had to be direct and tell her she needed to leave. This information was valuable, but also infuriating. Esther had lied to everyone, to me about needing space, to Roland about being single, to her mother about the timeline. Every single person in this situation was being manipulated by her, and she almost got away with it. I thanked Roland for his honesty. Then I asked him if Esther ever mentioned the inheritance. He looked confused. I explained that Esther's grandmother passed away 2 years ago and left her a significant sum that was being held in trust until Esther turned 30 or got married, whichever came first. Our marriage would have released those funds immediately. Roland had no idea. But now I had confirmation of what I suspected. Esther was not just looking for excitement with Roland. She was timing something. Our wedding was scheduled for October. She would have had access to that inheritance within months. Her little affair was supposed to be a temporary escape before locking down the money through our marriage. The inheritance reveal. This changes everything. This wasn't about feeling unappreciated or needing excitement. This was about securing the bag while having fun on the side. The wedding date in October would release the trust. She just wanted one last adventure before cashing in the marriage certificate. Roland wasn't a real option. He was a vacation. A little pre-wedding getaway before she had to commit to the stable, boring guy who would unlock her grandmother's money. The calculation involved in this, she had to keep both men on the hook, time everything perfectly, and play victim to everyone. And she would have gotten away with it if Roland hadn't kicked her out too early. The only reason this unraveled is because her side piece had more self-respect than she anticipated. I am still processing what to do with this information. Gloria keeps texting asking if I have calmed down yet. My dad Abraham left me a voicemail saying Isla called him again threatening some kind of legal action. And Esther herself has been silent for 2 days, which usually means she is planning something. The inheritance angle changes everything. This was never about confused feelings or needing space. This was about securing her financial future while having fun on the side. Final update. Esther finally made her move on Saturday. She showed up at Gloria's apartment knowing I would be there for our weekly dinner. Gloria texted me warning that Esther was on her way over, which gave me about 15 minutes to decide how I wanted to handle this. I told Gloria to let her in when she arrived. This confrontation was inevitable, and I preferred it happen somewhere neutral with a witness. Esther walked in looking like she had rehearsed every word. She barely acknowledged Gloria and went straight into her pitch. She said she knew about my conversation with Roland, that he had told her everything, and that I was twisting the situation to make her look worse than she was. She admitted she handled things badly, but insisted I was now the one being cruel by weaponizing finances against her. I asked her directly about the inheritance. Her face shifted immediately. She tried to brush it off, saying her grandmother's trust had nothing to do with us, that it was family money and none of my business. I pointed out that our wedding would have triggered the release of those funds and asked if that timing was coincidental. She got defensive fast, started saying I was paranoid, that plenty of couples get married at her age, that the trust conditions were set by her grandmother years before we even met. But she could not look at me while saying it. Gloria was watching this entire exchange from her kitchen, not intervening but clearly uncomfortable, walking in with a rehearsed speech and immediately going on the offensive. You're twisting things, you're being cruel, is the classic Darvo playbook. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. She can't defend what she actually did, so she's trying to reframe the narrative to make him the aggressor. But the second he mentioned the inheritance, all the rehearsed confidence evaporated. The inability to make eye contact while giving the paranoid defense? That's a tell. That's someone whose entire strategy just got exposed. And the trust conditions were set before we met is technically true, but wildly irrelevant. She knew about them. She knew the timeline. She timed the wedding. The grandmother didn't make her cheat right before payday. I laid out what I knew, that she told Roland we were already broken up when she moved in with him, that she planned to have her adventure and return to me before October, when we were supposed to marry, that the whole needing space conversation was a cover story while she tested whether Roland could offer her something better. And when he rejected her, she came crawling back expecting me to still deliver the marriage that would unlock her inheritance. Esther finally cracked. She started crying and admitted that yes, she was thinking about the timing. But she swore it was not the only reason, that she did love me, that things just got complicated. She said her parents had been pressuring her for years about the trust, that her grandmother specifically designed it to force her into marriage or wait until 30. She felt trapped by everyone's expectations and Roland felt like freedom. I told her that her explanation changed nothing. She still chose to lie. She still chose to betray me. And she still came back only when her escape plan failed. The inheritance excuse actually made it worse because it meant she viewed our entire relationship through the lens of what she could gain from it. She finally admitted it. Years of pressure about the trust. That means this wasn't a sudden lapse in judgment. The money was always part of the calculation. Every I love you, Every future they planned had the inheritance looming in the background. He wasn't her partner. He was her exit strategy from having to wait until 30. And when she says Roland felt like freedom, freedom from what? From the man who paid her rent, fixed her credit, and asked for nothing but loyalty? That's not feeling trapped. That's feeling entitled to more while giving nothing back. The audacity to frame him as the cage when he was the one getting used. That's the part that would keep me up at night. Then I told her what I had done. I explained that I had already withdrawn as co-signer on her car loan, which meant the lender would be contacting her about refinancing under her own credit. Given her score, they would likely demand full payment or repossess the vehicle. I told her I had removed myself from the joint credit card, transferring full liability to her. And I told her that I had prepared a detailed letter to the trust administrator explaining that our engagement was terminated due to her infidelity, which meant any attempt to claim early release through a quick marriage to someone else would face scrutiny. That last part hit her hardest. She asked how I even knew who administered the trust. I reminded her that she had asked me to help organize her financial documents 2 years ago when her grandmother passed. I photographed everything: account numbers, administrator contact information, trust conditions. I told her I had been thorough because I thought we were building a future together. Turns out that thoroughness had other uses. Esther completely lost her composure. She accused me of planning this for years, of never really loving her, of being exactly what her father always said I was. I reminded her that her father's warning was that I hold grudges and never forgive. I told her that description was accurate and she should have listened. Gloria finally intervened, telling us both to calm down. But there was nothing left to say. Esther grabbed her purse and left, slamming Gloria's front door on her way out. The letter to the trust administrator. This man didn't just remove himself from her life. He made sure she can't easily pull this same scheme on the next guy. Any future marriage gets scrutiny now. That's not just revenge. That's a public service announcement filed directly with the money people. And when she accuses him of planning this for years, the irony. She was the one running a multi-year financial scheme disguised as a relationship. He just happened to be organized about his own paperwork. He literally photographed those documents because he trusted her and wanted to help. Everything she's accusing him of is actually projection of what she was doing. The difference is she was scheming for profit, and he was just being thorough. Turns out preparation meets opportunity in unexpected ways. 2 weeks have passed since then. Esther's Mazda was repossessed when she could not refinance. She moved back in with Isla and her father. Gloria tells me the family is furious but has no legal recourse because everything I did was within my rights. Isla stopped calling my father after he told her directly to lose his number. Roland texted me once to say he was sorry things ended this way. I did not respond. Some people will read this and think I went too far. That revenge never solves anything. That I should have walked away and let karma handle it. But karma is slow and unreliable. Esther spent 4 years treating me like a stepping stone while her family looked down on me. They gambled that I would forgive anything because I loved her. They lost that bet. I am not healed. I am not at peace. But I am satisfied. And that is enough. I am not healed. I am not at peace. But I am satisfied. That's the most honest ending I've ever read on one of these stories. He's not pretending this made him whole or taught him some beautiful lesson about forgiveness. It didn't. What it did do was restore something that matters just as much: dignity. The knowledge that you don't have to just accept being used. That consequences exist even when people think they've gotten away clean. And yeah, some people will clutch their pearls about revenge, but let's be real, Sai. What was the alternative? Forgive her, marry her, unlock her inheritance, and then what? Wait for her to get bored again? People who say, just walk away, have never been treated like a human ATM by someone they loved.